Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and I'm back with another video. Today's video features the August 2022 My Monthly Hero Arts kit. This kit is in a southwestern direction. It is a color layering stencil with a coordinating die and stamp set. I did just a kind of practice piece here so that I could figure out what my game plan was for my card, to kind of see how everything fits together. And ultimately what I decided to do is that I wanted to do a layered scene. So here I'm using the A stencil to trace where the stone croppings are going to be so that I can do some ink blending in the background here. You guys know with my stencils that I like to use the Tableau Mono multi-glue behind them. This is repositionable glue. When it dries, it's still tacky. And so this is going to keep my stencils in place without me having to add any tape magnets, who's its, what's its, or hold it down. It will hold it down itself. When you're doing this for the first time, it does sometimes leave a little bit of sticky on the paper in certain spots. And for that, I just have an adhesive eraser. You can pick them up at a craft store, or somebody recently told me they have them at the Dollar Tree for $1. So that's a steal. Here, this is one of the I can't remember if it's B or C, but it's the one that has the sun. And so this is my background piece. So my furthest piece, not the part that's going to be really stenciled. I put the sun where I wanted it to be, and then I created a mask for it. And to do that, I just put my stencil on a piece of masking paper, traced it with a pencil, and trimmed it out. The reason that I'm masking the sun is because I want to do kind of like a, well, you decide if it's a sunset or if it's a sunrise. I'm not really sure. I knew I wanted vibrant colors in the background, and that's what I did. So I started with the yellows underneath. I went to a yellow, orange, pink, purple, and then I did do a smidge of a blue, and I really do mean a smidge. It really is much more purple, but I'm just going to blend these on there twice. Because I feel like that gives me the most vibrant result, and this is true of any of the inks that I would be using. And, oh, here, I went back over it with the yellow. Yellow is a little bit tricky for me. Sometimes my other colors overpower it, and I don't necessarily like the way that it looks. It doesn't blend as well. So typically with distress inking or any sort of ink blending, if you go back over it, whatever color you go over it with last is the one you're going to see the most of. And so usually when I'm blending my yellows into an orange or a green, the yellow ends up being the color that I end on because it helps it blend better. So yeah, I knew that I wanted to do this little scene. If you're not familiar with the Hero Arts kits, you get a ton of super good stuff in this particular kit. It's 5 sheets of watercolor paper, 4 ink cubes, these 4 color layering stencils, the matching dies, some bronzing pigment, and the sentiments, and it's $35, $35.99. I can't remember. It's $35.99, I think. But obviously you wouldn't be able to purchase all of that for that amount, and that's why the kit's such a good deal. But if you are from a southwestern state, or maybe you have somebody in your family or a child who's going to a college in a southwestern state, these are great for masculine cards. Or if you have a friend who's moving, this kit is good for all kinds of stuff because it's super neutral and you can do a lot of things with it. As you're hopping along, this video is part of a Hero Arts Hop, where they are giving away prizes. You know, I love a good prize because I'm a cheap chicken. I'll link the hop below if you want to go participate. You'll see along the hop that there are a ton of different ways to use this kit. I just really wanted to focus on the colors. You guys know, as a colorist, I love a lot of variation and kind of bringing a scene to life with dimension. And in order to do that, I have to be conscientious about my colors almost all the time. So here, the masking wasn't perfect, and it almost never is, so it's fine. The way that I fix that is I just go in with a Copic marker that matches and fill in the gap, and nobody will ever know that I didn't get it where I wanted it to be. Here, This is the A stencil, but I have flipped it over on its back because I want to create the illusion of distance in my scene to give it some more dimension. And so I don't want you could use it the right way, the front side facing up, but then your stone groupings would be identical. I don't want them to be identical. I am flipping it over so that they're not exactly the same, and it's going to add so much more interest and depth to this scene. I did choose to do the purple, which is the same colors that I'm going to be using in the forward facing stone. But if you put two complementary colors together, okay, purple and yellow, that's what I've done here, it's going to give you brown. That is true. But it is going to be a brown that is tinted with the colors that you used. So even though my purple and my yellow are going to make brown, it is still going to be more on the purple side. The base of it is going to be more purple. So the last thing you saw me doing there was just making sure that my outcroppings would cover, like I had shaded down enough. I didn't. I had to go back in and just get that little corner. Here, in order to get even more dimension, talking about layering colors, I don't want my front scene to be all one color. I want it to be more interesting than that. And so, because I have this sunset, sunrise scene, we don't know what it is. We're not sure. I think I was going for a sunset. I think that was my game plan. So you tell me which one you perceive it to be. But I'm going to use some blue violets and some darker violets to add some shading to these stone croppings. These colors are a smidge bright for the scene that we have going on. And in order to tone that down, y'all are going to think I'm crazy. You're going to be like, Kelly, it looks like a muddy mess. You're not going to be wrong. I am going to add a little bit of brown. I'm going to add a little bit of this brushed corduroy, which is a kind of like a medium brown, right over the areas of the purple. They're still going to look purple. They're just going to be a little bit toned down, and I didn't add it everywhere. I added it more to the base and the sides so that the highlights would still be on the edges. Once I have the brown down, I am going to go back in with, again, those blue violets and violets to make sure that I don't lose the color that I intended. I just want it to be a little bit more muted. And this is something that you can do just by playing with your colors to try and see the intensity that you can get. And then I'm going to move that mask up. Here, this is my own fault. You guys know none of my cards are perfect, and sometimes you gotta adapt. I gotta adapt all the time, and it's cool. So here, I didn't put any color down as my base, and I should have put at least a little something so it's not stark white. So I am going back in with that brushed corduroy just so the parts that are masked off have a little bit of color, and then I'll go back in with even further shading where the stencil is. These little strips of masking paper that I'm using here is actually from my Post-it note masking tape, but you can use whatever you have, including Post-it notes. Anything, or even if you just want to use if you have Tombow Mono multi-glue. I used to make masks out of copy paper and Tombow Mono multi-glue all the time. That was my jam before I could afford masking paper. We're not bougie around here. We do what we got to do to get the crafting done. So I put down a layer of that brushed corduroy. And then I will be adding some more shadows in with the two darker browns. I think I use Vintage Photo and Ground Espresso. But again, this is just creating those layers for that depth so this scene does not look flat. So for the middle section, I am masking both the top and the bottom so that I can get the darker colors there so it looks like a different layer of sand or dirt, whatever that is. I think it's sand. But yeah, just really concentrate on, when you're doing stenciling, one color is pretty. Don't get me wrong. It is. You can make a pretty scene with one color. But if you're looking to create dimension, don't discount using more than one color. Maybe even 3 colors. Whatever you need to do to get the look that you're going for. So once that was done, then this portion of the stenciling is done, and I'm going to move on to the more detailed layers. Remember how I told you that I don't make a card that doesn't have a mistake? So in doing this, I completely forgot the detail layer for the desert and the rocks. Like, I just went straight to the cacti. I was super excited about this green, apparently, and I just went straight to the cacti. Skipped right over it. Don't worry, I'm going to full-on die cut the card out, and it will sit on my desk for a whole day before I realize that I did not. I kept looking at it like, something's not right. Like, I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. I don't know why. Oh, because you have no detail in it, because you skipped the stencil. You skipped a stencil layer. So we will be coming back to that a little bit later. As far as story time goes, I'm sure you guys are all anxiously awaiting to hear about Molly's surgery. My homegirl is there now. The doctor has already called me. So this morning, it was a little bit of a circus. This morning, I got up. I got Caitlin and Peanut up. He was getting ready to go to my parents while I was feeding her. I got her dressed, took her to daycare, took Peanut to my mom's house, came back to the house, picked up Molly, got all her medications because those have to come with us. And then the place that she's having her surgery is actually like 40 minutes away. Back to the card. So at this point, I am totally going to die cut this because I don't realize that I've forgotten my detail layer. The die cut, you can cut out the cactus as well. Like, they have those elements that you can cut out, pop up. That's super fun. But I just use the one for the whole piece. And I did tape it down quite a bit just to make sure that it wasn't going to shift and it was going to be straight. It's just a little bit smaller than an A2 size card. So I trimmed the sides, and then I trimmed my background to make sure that would match up. Here's where I realize I don't have the detail layer at all. And so I'm going to put that back in, again, using the same purple that I used before, the darker purple, and then the darker brown. So anyway, I got up, I got them where they needed to go. I came back, I gathered up Molly, I gathered up her meds, and then this place is like 40 minutes away. So then I got to driving. We get out there with, I'm going to be honest, there was no incident, but if you guys know me, you know that I have driving anxiety. And going new places, driving on hills, driving in open spaces, driving on the highway. I got a lot of things going on, a lot of things happening. And so driving on back roads never used to bother me. And now as I have gotten older, basically since I had a child, so 9 years ago, now even that bothers me. Hills are terrible. Like, you know, when you're on a roller coaster and like you go up the hill and then down, and your tummy kind of does that thing where it kind of like comes up and then goes back down. And that's such a fun little feeling. It fills me with terror. Complete and utter terror. I don't like it at all. Back to the card. So here I'm using the unicorn pigment ink from Hero Arts to put in these clouds in my background. Now that all my inking's done, and it's just going to give some really soft kind of white clouds in the background that I think, again, just adds another layer of interest. You could leave those off or not. But then I'm going to pop this whole piece up on foam tape to give that really layered look and have lots of dimension. But yeah, so there were some hills on the way out there. It wasn't great. We got where we were going. Praise Jesus. And then we had to wait in the waiting room for quite a while before they called us back. The vet tech was super nice. Poor Molly was kind of like whiny, crying. Obviously, she has anxiety. I have anxiety. We're a little bit of a mess. But then the doctor came in after he had the vet tech took her to be assessed, and then they brought her back to me. And so he did confirm that her entire ACL was torn. He's like, I'm pretty sure that's what we have going on here. back to the card. So here, you guys know there's very little white with this die, but I don't want any of it. I want my scene to blend in. So I'm going to go in with my Copics to color in that white area to match the sky. And then I'm going to add some highlights with my clear shimmer as well as a white gel pen. I'm going to add some highlights with that as well to just kind of bolster up that highlight from where the sun would be hitting it. So he's like, there's something going on with her right leg as well. We'll know better once, you know, we get in there. These are our options. Our options are do nothing. Our options are these surgeries. He said, but I'm going to tell you these 2 other surgeries, like I would not even, I couldn't in good conscience do them because they're going to set her up for failure. They will eventually fail her. So the surgery that he wanted to do was actually the same one that I had looked into. So it's the TPLO, where they actually cut her bone and fuse it. Well, they put metal in there to hold it together, and then it fuses to her other bone, and it actually cuts out the need for her to have an ACL at all. So we can give her at least one good leg. So that was the game plan going in. They told me they would call me before she went into surgery, and then the doctor would call me when they got out of surgery. The surgery total was 45 minutes of prep, 45 minutes of surgery, and I totally cried when I left because she's like one of my kids, and I was so apprehensive for her, and she didn't even know what was happening, and I just hated to leave her, and I cried, and I'm not ashamed to admit that because I love my big girl. I love my old lady. So they did call me. Since I have been home, they told me that she had torn her ACL as well as torn her meniscus. They were able to repair that. Everything came out really well, and she's in recovery. So we will be able to go get her at 7:30 this evening and bring her home. Where obviously she'll be on pain meds and things, but we'll see how the recovery goes from there. So I just wanted to give you guys that update because I know that you have been praying for her and worried about her, and I do appreciate that because obviously I am doing the same thing. So anywho, here's that. I told you the glitter and then the white gel highlights that I'm putting in there, and this just adds a little extra, you know, dimension to what we already have going on here. Totally optional step and something that's a really easy way to add some dimension and interest to your cards. But you know, you make yours you. So here I'm trying to show you the shimmer per per viewer request, and then that's it. That's the whole card. So I will link below to the blog hop if you're interested in that, as well as the kit and the add-on. The add-ons are, you know, very cute and in the same vein. I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.